Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next round of lightning talks here at Speaker's Corner. If you are waiting in line for a demo, we'd love for you to please come join us at Speaker's Corner, and you'll be able to skip to the front of the line after the Speaker's Corner presentation is done. This one is super relevant to this room, actually. We have Scott Colburn, who's talking about Reggie Watts, which is our experience over here behind our wall. Reggie Watts Audio Props, a glimpse into spatial audio design. So thank you so much, Scott. If you'd like to.
We have a few more seats over here for the Circus of Sound, the three-ring Circus of Sound. Maybe not. So anyway, she introduced me, Scott Colburn. I'm the audio lead for Actiongram, which is a holographic app for the HoloLens. Has anybody that's here, have you gone through this experience over here? You played with Actiongram. Cool. And you've gone through the experience already? Well, after we talk about this, I suggest that you go and see the experience, because it's So what I'm going to talk about today is one particular aspect of that experience, and in that experience there's obviously Reggie Watts is performing music, but we also made some audio props for him. These were supposed to be like environments that he could perform in, but they could also be freestanding holographic spaces that you could use for other things. And I think that this is not playing the video. So this is the whale audio prop. There's 4 of them in the experience. And basically what happened is when we were talking about doing this experience and having Reggie Watts come in to be captured holographically, they had talked to me about doing something that was an audio-only experience. And so my idea was to create something like this, some animation, do sound for that, but it would be very abstract in its way. It's like it's not music-based. You can't dance to it. You might be able to give it a 10, but maybe not. But that's the animation that you're seeing here. And just to put this in perspective, I want to play the animation with the sound so you can hear what I'll be talking about, and then we'll break it down into stems. It's sort of freaky. It's pretty weird. When we look in Unity, this is what the prop looks like, and this is very confusing. I've got all the audio sources selected right now, and it's really hard to see what's going on. So let's reorient this to top view. So we'll zoom into the whale, and then rotate it so I can see top view, and then pull out a little bit, and add in the emitters, again, that we saw just on side view, and zoom out. So now we can see all of the emitters that make up this particular prop, and only one of them is selected right now. And how many people are familiar with Unity's audio functions? A few people. So what this is showing is one single emitter, and these concentric rings are showing min and max distance, which means that whatever volume you set the sound to be at this point, it will remain at that volume out to the minimum distance, and then we'll start to attenuate or start to bring the sound down as you move further away from it. And by the time you get out here, you won't hear it at all. So you'll have this attenuation happening over time. To put this in perspective, the minimum distance is set to 3 meters, so it's about 9 feet, and it rolls off at about 10 meters, which is about 30 feet. So 30 feet away from the prop, you won't hear the sound anymore. And this is why the spatial audio is important. And it is like we're using the Microsoft Spatial Panner spatializer in this. And you can take any of these, put it in space. It will come from that location. When you move your head, it will stay in that place. And then it behaves like it would in real life, is that if you were speaking and I walked away from you, it would get quieter and quieter and quieter until eventually you just wouldn't hear the person anymore. But all these make up the entire soundtrack that you heard in that animation. So in the top view, these are all the emitters shown, and this is a list of the emitters that are in this particular prop. So I have some stereo sources, and by stereo I mean that there's two emitters to make up the stereo pattern. I have an underwater sound, a drone, which is based on some performances that Reggie Watts had done, and he allowed me to manipulate sounds that he had made. So the drone comes from that. There's a music, I put that in quotation marks because it's not really music, it's not beat oriented, but I have to call it something, so I'm calling it music. And then I have a quad source, so this is taking up 4 emitters that make these bubbles that the whale is swimming around in. And then I have a single mono source, which is for the animation Foley for the whale itself. If they're all highlighted with all of their min-max distances and attenuation curves highlight, it looks like a complete mess, or a modern piece of art, maybe. That's the way I look at it. Let's look at each one individually. So underwater, the underwater sound, this is left and this is right. So orientation for this is like, because we're looking at top view, like this is right up here, and this is left down here. This is forward and that's back, spatially. And I decided to do this whole thing in a single plane like this because in Actiongram, all the holograms are resizable. So you can make the whale huge or very small. And so if I started putting sound up above, which I could do, when it started getting big, those sounds are going to be a lot further away and it would be harder to hear. So I just did it in a single plane of which our ears would be in. So here we have right and left, and then both together. So if this whale was sitting right here, and you put your head in the middle of the whale like this, you would hear this underwater sound in stereo back and forth across the whale. Okay? That's how it's put together. The underwater sound just sounds like this. It sounds like underwater. And it's from a sound effects library, and it's underwater sound. It's actual underwater sound. That's the base for the whale to swim in. Then I have the drone. Now this is made from the performances that Reggie Watts did on campus. So I have the left front and the back right. And this makes the stereo source cross this way. So if the whale was right here, the stereo-ness of it is crossing like this across the whale diagonal. This is both of them selected together, and this is what it sounds like. Hence the name drone. It just drones on and on and on. But I want to point out these two sections right here because this drone was made from this source.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
And the two things that you saw in there that I pointed out to is just check 1. Check 1. But stretched out to 2 minutes to make that drone.
Check 1 2.
Then we have the quad bubbles. So we have quad in front, we have quad right, quad bubbles back, and quad bubbles left. And notice they're a lot further away from the whale. So if you sat on the whale or sat in the whale, the bubbles would come from different places in space and would be further away than the underwater sound that we were hearing. So that creates a really nice wide palette of sound that's happening around the whale. This is all of them selected together, and this is what it sounds like basically. And this is a popping sound that Reggie had done just in a sound check with pitch shifting on it, some different delays and everything, so it makes the bubbles pop around in different places within the quad scheme. And then we have the music, as I said in quotation marks. We have the music left back and right front. So this is to provide symmetry. We have the drone sitting this way, and we have the music sitting this way, so that it creates a composite that's also quadraphonic. These are both of them selected together, and this is what the music sounds like. is basically unaffected. It's like it's straight from an improv session that we did with Reggie Watts, and he's putting his own effects on there, and I add additional effects on different delays and reverb and everything to create this music. And then lastly, we have the animation sound effect. This is attached to the whale right there, and this is all just to provide Foley for the animation of the whale when it swims around. And you'll notice when I play this that it's there's holes in it because it's part of the bubbles, the underwater, the drone, the music. All this is working together, and so it's really just to provide sound just when the whale is making movement, and to try to accentuate that within the mix. This is actually showing in Unity the audio source, and I just wanted to point out that this is how we get spatial sound into it. You can put spatial sound into any of your projects in Unity because the Microsoft Spatializer comes with Unity 5.6. It's a really great spatializer. Out of all of the ones that I've researched, there's like 5 or 6 of them. This is the one that I was most impressed with, and I was really glad to be able to start working with it. And now I'm really glad that people in public are able to use this because I feel it's the best one at getting height and spatialization, especially in this plane, but height and depth as well. This is actually showing us custom script that we use for Actiongram, and these replace all of the basic functions that happen in Unity, but you can still do it natively without a special script. You just have to turn spatialization on any audio source that you put into your scene. So this is the Foley. There's holes in it. So that's just to solidify those actions that you actually see in the animation. And now we can put it all back together again. This is showing the sound effect thing hooked to a joint, because the one thing that I wanted to do with this is that as the whale moves, the source needs to move with it. So you saw in the animation where the whale takes an arc like this. I want the sound to work like that too, because if we made the whale huge, we want to be able to detect that the sound's coming up like this, and you're hearing that sound of the whale as it's moving. If it's small, you don't detect it as much, but when it's large, you do. And so it needs to be done because of that. This is running the animation. You can see how the emitter just follows the whale wherever it goes. And this is hooked to the joint of the character that is the whale. It's sitting here. I don't have it actually showing. It's down below there, but it's like I put it within a joint on the character animation. And here's the composite again, like we heard at the top of the talk. Are you able to identify all the sounds now? And then as a bonus, I wanted to show you this in action, in Actiongram as a hologram. And so I captured this whale in my home studio using the HoloLens. But it's fun. It's just fun to play out. So now that you've seen that, I suggest that you go see the demo and hang around inside the demo, because the audio pops will play even if you don't walk away from it. Like, you can put your head in it or whatever, and even though it might tell you to go to the next thing, you could sit there and like listen to it for a little bit if you want. Does anybody have any questions? Everybody knows everything. Yeah, we could have only 12 sources at a time. Yeah, and this was 9. Did you have another question? Well, you can write me. Yeah. Thanks.